So the Globe and Mail revealed a very, very big story yesterday. Chief of Defense Staff General Jonathan Vance had an interview with Robert Fife where he revealed a bunch of really important things and also pushed the usual imperialist fear-mongering scare tactics about China and Russia, really just drumming the beats of the war machine. Anyways, getting on to the key point now. So the Pentagon, Vance revealed, actually gave Ottawa a heads up on plans to kill Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, who was very, very crucial in defeating ISIS and pushing it back in the region. So apparently, this notice was given to allow the Canadian military to put in place force protection measures in case of Iranian counterstrikes. Now, this is just yet another example of really how Canada tends to not be directly involved in these conflicts, though obviously the case of the Libyan invasion, which we led with NATO in 2011, is an example of that not being the case. But in this case, at least, it's quite frankly kind of reminiscent of our involvement in the Iraq War, where we actually stayed out of the war directly, but we still played a really key role in terms of military support and a whole bunch of other measures throughout that time period. So there's also a few important things to note, which was Vance's trying to make the case to develop a quote-unquote grand strategy to promote Chinese expansionism. Yet again, the whole fear-mongering and xenophobia, which is so rampant in Canadian affairs, and especially in the military, quite obviously, which notably I reported on had basically canceled a training exercise with the Chinese military back in early, basically 2019. So now there's even more. Basically, we have a case where he's pushing fear-mongering yet again as well, making the case for further basically involvement in Europe with a fear of Russia trying to take more territory in Crimea and around the Black Sea. At the end of the day, I think Jay Watts said it really well. He's central organizer of the Communist Party. This part of it does seem like a retiring military general attempting to drum up basically the war machine and really justify contracts and further investment in the military, Navy, etc. Yeah, it's quite tremendously disappointing, really. Now, I guess the one ironic thing I should note basically is he actually went along and fearmongered about Huawei. Now, Huawei was effectively blocked from Canadian soil by delays in terms of regulatory decisions, which led to all three of the big telecoms, so Bell, Telus, and Rogers, deciding to not go with Huawei to build the 5G network, but he also pushed fear about that, which is quite frankly no real surprise. So the end game really is that the Canadian military is already going to be receiving a ton of funds from the Canadian government, $70 billion as revealed by Yvon Glaire in a Jacobin article recently, to invest in new Navy frigates. And quite frankly, this kind of action, this kind of statement is just an attempt to get weapons contractors in the exact kind of bloody imperialists that he'll get paid well to work for, just to get them more contracts, to get them more money. And do I think this is going to really directly go about and change Canadian foreign policy or Canadian military policy. I really doubt it. I think this is already kind of set up in the way it is, and while I think talk like this is extremely dangerous, I 100% think it is for sure. I think it's more kind of an open reveal of how the military works. So hopefully, maybe this makes people realize, well, we have so many that'll rail against, even in this country, rail against U.S. military figures going into weapons firms, going to weapons boards, and making a killing there. It's happening here as well. There's a culture of militarism, of imperialism abroad. It's Canadian imperialism, obviously, on its own. But it definitely exists there, and it's problematic. It's something that's the cycle's gonna have to be broken eventually. So, anyways, that is the video. Thank you for watching. Now, hope you guys did enjoy this. It just really found it concerning, especially with a retiring general, obviously really pushing just xenophobia, fear, and trying to make the case for, quite frankly, more military contracts to the already rather wealthy military contractors. So if you want to support the work of the Canada Files, you can go to patreon.com/thecanadafiles. If you want to support my work as the editor-in-chief of the site, you can go to patreon.com/Aidan Jonah, AIDAN Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you all have a great day. And, well, down with Canadian imperialism, always.